Good evening. This is my third day working on this game. I tried to make it in one day, but I take breaks, I eat, I sleep, and all this gameplay, game programming is in real time. So on this third day, this is what we're up to here. There's that sound, oh, like that my player got collided with something. And look at that, you saw that shot that didn't go anywhere? There's some shots that aren't going anywhere, and my player's making a sound when the game starts. I think the player's making a sound when the game starts because the player and the floor, that's a collision detected, and therefore it's making the sound. So what I'm going to do is over here in the player script, I'm just going to add to say what I'm colliding with if it's with an enemy. Okay, so if collision.gameobject.compare tag to my enemies, then I'll do the thing where I make the sound, cut and paste. And I think that'll take care of that. Let's see. Here we go. Lies is 3, no sound. Good. And I still hit the enemies, and when I hit the enemies, I reset to the middle again. Alright, cool. Now, the other thing was the shots. Most of them, they do go to the end, but you see those 3 shots right there? They didn't go anywhere. I think I know why. I'm going to look at the player shot thing. So, the player shot, when activate shot happens, let me just collapse all the things to definitions. Over here, when activate shot happens, it automatically calls start coroutine deactivate shot. So there's a thread, its own thread of deactivate shot running, and it's waiting for 1 second. But if a shot collides, then it's going to be deactivated immediately right here. See, if a shot collides, it'll be deactivated immediately. So this immediate deactivate may happen, and then this one may still be waiting to happen in 1 second. That's what I think is going on. I want to make sure that when I call the coroutine, that there's not another coroutine running. So start coroutine returns a variable coroutine. So let's get that in my private variables here for the script. Coroutine, yeah, I guess I'll call it coroutine. And then over here, Control V equals start coroutine, and over here, coroutine equals start coroutine. So here, before I call start coroutine, I'll call stop coroutine, my variable. And I guess I'll call that if it's not null. Same thing with activate shot. If there's one that happens to be running before it, I'll just stop it. Okay, well I got the coroutine name. So let's see if this stops those shots that are ending kind of too soon. So first I still could shoot a regular shot. Gotta play a little bit, see if the effect is happening. Okay, I got it. So I'm not noticing the effect right now, but it's probably because it's hard for me to create the error on demand. So now what I'm going to do is let's make some explosions more fancy. So let's just start off with an empty game object. I'll call it explosion. And to this empty game object, which happens to be right there right now, I'm going to add a effect. And right now it has particles that are flowing backwards, and they're coming out pink. There's no material or texture on them. Here it's rendering billboard method. I think there's a method mesh. Let's pick a material. The enemies are red, and so I'll pick red. Let's see if I could make them rotate. Rotation over lifetime. The angular velocity, let's increase it. The explosion is not going to just continue and continue and continue. It's going to happen and then stop. So let's see what that looks like. Say play. It's kind of coming out way too slow, I think. It should come out faster. I think there's simulation speed. I can just play with that. Lifetime, let's make it shorter, like 2, and increase the simulation speed further. Play. We could always play with this more and more. What will make the explosion effect? I think the player shot. When the player shot hits, then it'll make the explosion effect. Let's return this camera back to normal, to the regular view. View to selected. All right. And we're going to have to go to the player shot prefab. And we have a script here. It has the file for explosion. We're going to have to add the prefab for explosion into the player shot script. Public game object prefab explosion. So let's go back to Unity, and here is there. It's wanting the prefab for the explosion, so I'm just going to drag and drop it on there. And it takes it. Okay, good. It takes it. Save. So now when do we want to... Oh, we're going to have to instantiate explosion at some point. So it's probably going to be on collision enter. Trigger explosion, I'll call it. Okay, so in this trigger explosion, we're going to be doing that little spawning stuff. So private void trigger explosion. And in here, we're going to do the stuff where we got to have the, it's the spawning routines. PS equals null, and if it's found or not, because we have to look in a pool. So first, if b found equals false, then we're going to be instantiating it. Game object explosion pool equals null. This one's going to be trickier because the explosion pool is going to be something in the scene, so I can't set it on the prefab. So that means I'm going to have to get it when it's going to get used. So I'll use this method of my properties again. Game object. All right, so actually I'll make this one private, and I'll put this little thing there since it's only visible inside. And then here, game object explosion pool, no parentheses because I'm making this property. Then it's going to have to get. And it's going to be like, if the explosion pool equals null, then I'm going to get it. And the way I'm going to get it is I'm just going to look for it from the scene. So let's go back here, go back to the scene view, go to my pools. And here I'm just going to make another pool. Let's create an empty explosion pool. Then over here, we'll say that the explosion pool equals game object dot find the explosion pool. And then we return that. So now, here in my thing, it's explosion pool dot transform. I think the particle system is going to equal the g object dot get component particle system ps dot play. Play it, kick it, play that beat. So now the look in the pool part is going to look through the children of the explosion pool. For int I equals 0, I less than explosion pool dot transform dot child count I plus plus g object equals explosion pool dot transform dot get child at I. From that we get the game object. Now we need the particle system. If ps dot is playing equals false, then we could use this explosion object in the scene, and we could say ps dot play and break be found equals true. But I do need a location to play the explosion from. Let's see where I'm calling it. I gotta make sure I still have the position set. I call it on collision enter, I play the sound, I trigger explosion. Alright, so that's good. So this thing, the position didn't get reset yet because it doesn't have the activate yet. G object dot transform dot position, this dot transform position, and G object dot transform dot rotation equals this dot transform dot rotation. Okay, so it's going to be facing, pointing the same way as the shot, which is going down the road there. Bam, bam. Oh! Oh! I don't know, it looks like the explosion's going like too long. I'm going to make the explosion effect shorter. So let's double click on the explosion. So lifetime 0.4. And I want the origin point to be like tighter. Is that the shape? What's this? The source radius. Play. So I modified the explosion. Trying to. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, we got a game going. Oh! Now we gotta do something about us exploding. I like this explosion sound. That sounds pretty good. It's nice and fat. Download this to my game, assets folder, Space Game 01 assets resources, explosion to sound. This one sounds pretty fat too, so I'm gonna download this one. So on my ship getting hit, he goes, but maybe I can make like a little effect when he gets hit. Could it be the same explosion pool? No. We have to make the explosion first. So game object, let me make it empty. Just gonna call this one explosion 2. Add an effect. So when my shots are firing this way, the explosion particles like they kind of go in the direction of the explosion. Now when something's hitting my ship, the player, I think the particles are gonna go toward us, toward the camera. So I'm gonna rotate that. Is it? I just do it here. Rotation on the X. 180. Oh, okay. Let's change the material to blue. It's pieces of us, and I'll do the same thing where it was like a mesh. It was rotation over lifetime. I kind of check that, and then I just like increase the speed. Because here's my ship. So let's move this thing more in the position like where the ship is. It's gonna hit the ship like there maybe. So The lifetime is too long. Lifetime 0.5. Again, things are slow for an explosion, so can I make the start speed higher? Boom. I think when the ship's here, we should make it point up more. So let's rotate that up more, and that would be on the... Okay, that's the X. Wait a minute. On the X, I rotated it 180. X is the red line. That's wrong. That, let me put back to 0. I should rotate it on the Y to turn it around and point to me. Okay? And then, let me just see that. Boom. Boom. Sometimes it goes down. Then I could point it up with the X a little bit. Let's point it up a little bit to point like more toward the camera. Boom. Boom. Alright. So let's say this is explosion 2. Explosion 1 and explosion 2. And now on the player, we're going to have all this explodey stuff. So delete, and we're going to have explosion 2 pool. So let's make another empty explosion 2 pool. And for the player, we're going to have to get another prefab. Oh, I got to go to player script. I was looking at the wrong script, folks. Wrong script. All right, so we have a prefab for the shot. We're going to have a prefab for public game object prefab explosion equals null, and then public game object explosion pool equals null. And this, maybe I should call this explosion pool explosion player. Explo player pool. Prefab explo player pool. Yeah, sorry, I'm naming stuff over and over. There's a prefab explosion, an explo player pool, and these things could be defined at design time because the player is at design time here. So for the explosion 2 is going to be for the player. And the explosion player pool is that. There. Now, I just need a function to instantiate it. So what's this doing? This is like on collision enter, collision game object, compare tag enemy. Every time I get hit, it goes, oh, right? And maybe the player's going to reset his position. That's not going to be good. If he keeps resetting his position, the player's gonna move away from the explosion. Yeah, because like sometimes when it gets knocked, then the ship's pointing the wrong way. Then it starts sliding back and forth like this or like that. So I could be over here. I just want to bring it here and turn it around to face the right way. So it's the X I want to leave the same and just put the Y and the Z. Let's see how that looks when I'm getting hit. If I do that, pause. Okay, so I'm gonna reset the player. Let me just see that resetting kind of methodology. Here, I should have let him hit me. This guy's off here. He's off position. Oh, cool. I'm not sure if that reset position is working that great, but let's finish doing the explosion thing. So over here on collision enter, when the player hits an enemy, right after the play sound, let's write that function, trigger explosion, and it should almost be the same as the one I just had on player shot. So I'm gonna cheat, I'm just gonna do a copy, and let me fix the indentation, shift tab, there. And I got rid of some errors. Now let me go back in Unity and make sure I set that to the right thing. Oop, I lost both things. Prefab, player. So it's going to be using explosion 2, and it's going to be using the explode player pool. Save. So is this going to work? I'm going to look from the explosion pool for one. I find it. I'm going to do it. If not, I'm going to make a new. I think this is going to work. Let's try it out. Play. Play, and wait for it to play. Here we go. Here they come. Wait a minute. Explosion. Explosion's facing the wrong way. I wanted it to come flying toward me. Okay, we had a problem in the playback that the explosion was going the wrong way for the player. It was going like out toward the horizon when the player got hit, but I fixed that. As you can see now, the little player box, they come toward us in our direction. And the other thing that we wanted to lock down was like when the player got hit that he was sliding off to the sides. So I'm going to show you how I fix the explosion, and then I'm going to show you how I fix the player kind of going off angle. Let's select the player first, and here in the rigid body for the player, I constrained rotation on the y-axis for the player. So the y-axis is like right here up top of the head. So if it can't spin around like this, it can't go into different angles. If I constrain rotation on the y-axis, and then I freeze position on the z-axis, that's back forward and backward, so they can't go forward and backward. These two things alone will keep the player from going offline. Therefore, inside the script here for player, this whole player reset thing is not necessary. This player reset thing, it won't be necessary. I could get rid of it. Now on the explosion, which is a prefab over here, explosion 2 was the explosion I was using for the player, explosion 2. And now as you can see, explosion 2 is coming toward the camera. But before I was using the transform of the game object. I'm not using that anymore. Now I'm inside the particle system, the shape container, and in here it has position and rotation. So I did the rotation on the shape object of the particle system itself.